So if you'd like to give a warm welcome to Eleni, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies already for my English, for my pronunciation. So, delighted to be here with you, and thank you for the invitation. I do represent, as you see, FEFCO, which is the European Federation for Corrugated Packaging Manufacturers. And here I am to give you some insights about the packaging and packaging waste regulation, which is currently under elaboration at European level. I will guide you through the aim of this regulation, the process, provisions quite quickly, and then insist a bit more on the potential impacts for the corrugated industry and what FEFCO is doing in order to assist its members to cope with this. So I don't know how familiar you are. Here we speak about a revision of an existing legislation. So it was the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, which is currently under review, and it will become a regulation. What's the difference? The difference is that in the directive, the member states can have their say and then can adapt as they wish, although for the regulation, they have to adopt immediately all the provisions mentioned in the text. So the aim of this legislation is to reduce, according to the Commission proposal, the negative impact, environmental impact for packaging and packaging waste while improving the functioning of the European market. Nicely said, a quite noble objective, but at the end, quite a big headache for us. This is the policy timeline. I won't insist in this. You see that we are here in the process where you have the red dot, and we expect to have everything finalized before the European elections, notably June, beginning of June next year. Everything starts from there. All our headache starts from there, which is the waste hierarchy. Probably you have seen it. This has been elaborated something like 20 years ago. And this gives a kind of, puts a hierarchy in waste. First of all, we speak about waste prevention, which is what for everybody should aim. Then preparation for use, and then recycling, composting, and then, of course, recovery and disposal and landfilling. The fact that the preparation for use is in a better place than recycling and composting is the origin of all our troubles, because, as you know, our products are not reusable, are single use, by the way. Even if we can reuse, for instance, corrugated boxes, the definition does not cover this kind of reuse. Our boxes are designed and produced for single use and for recycling at the end of life. And here you see that in any case, reuse is better according to the waste hierarchy. Before any proposal of legislation, the European Commission is obliged to make an impact assessment. What will be the impact to the environment, to society, to economics, if this proposal will go forward. And the impact assessment they have made, which according to our organization paper, board and colleagues, we believe it's really a very weak one, they found out that you can easily see wherever yellow, it's paper and board. The highest volume of waste come from corrugated and other board boxes. This is in fact true, because corrugated boxes are responsible for transporting something like 70% of European goods. So it's normal that most of the waste, what they call waste, in fact, for us is valuable raw material. And the funny thing is, funny in brackets, that here they put all they call waste independently of any recycling rate. So they put plastics at the same level as the corrugated card box, and everybody knows that the recycling levels are not similar. So we continue. Which are the major points that will impact the corrugated cardboard industry? Amongst others, the most important and dangerous, let's say, provision for us is the reuse targets. Because the European Commission foresees reuse targets for sales and grouped and transport packaging. And by the way, we had the possibility to see a leaked version of this proposal before it was published in October. And when we have seen this proposal, 90% of the corrugated business was out of market. Of course, emergency, we have visited the Commission with facts, figures, etc., and we have managed to have an exemption for corrugated, for cardboard, because here we speak materials, we don't speak shapes. So corrugated is considered as a shape, although the raw material is what's considered the material is the cardboard. So this legislation introduces market restrictions. They reduce the empty space limit, and I will explain later what it is, notably for the group transport and e-commerce packaging. They impose recycled content in packaging, and then provisions that are not so important still, but not affecting us directly. Already problem of definitions. We have insisted to have primary, secondary, tertiary. They didn't want to have this. Instead, they prefer to have sales, group, and transport. In a complete mix of what those packaging mean. So we have been to them with boxes saying this is a sales packaging, this is a group packaging, and pictures, and this is a transport packaging. That shows somehow the weakness of the impact assessment as well, and how policymakers can propose legislation without having really the full picture of what is happening on the market. Design for recycling, something that can be interesting to you. The European Commission has the aim that all products by 2030 are recyclable or reusable. And by the way, they want to put out of the market any grades that are recyclable to a level lower than 70%. And here you can see all the details. You will have the presentation if you're interested. So I have seen in Neil's presentation that one of the potential markets is all this pallets thing. So this is under risk currently, because the European legislation proposes a ban of all those packaging lower than 1.5 kilo, so independently of material. So they say, of course, single-use plastic packaging, single-use composite packaging, in brackets, in some cases, paper is considered composite, notably for these pallets, or other single-use packaging for fresh fruits and vegetables. So this will affect really our markets, and notably in countries like Spain, France, when they have quite a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then you think about, okay, you can say the apples and the pears we can transport in bulk, but what will you do with the berries, for instance? How will you transport them? So this is a huge discussion around this. Hopefully there are some parliamentarians that they see the problem and they have proposed to delete completely this provision, but for the moment we are in a process. So at the end, as you know, this will be a political compromise. But at the proposal of the Commission that all in all it could be somehow okay for us, those pallets are completely out of the market. Excessive packaging limits, so what they call it void space, is the empty space. So when you send, for instance, a good, when you transport it, it should not have more than 40%. In the picture here, it has much more than 40% void space. But normally, according to the new legislation, the proposal, it's not a legislation yet, the void space should not be higher than 40%. of course, again, the Parliament comes with more stringent provision asking for 30%. And our industrialists, our companies are saying to us, for some goods, it's impossible, notably fragile goods, it's impossible to have lower than 30%. So this is ongoing as well. Something that it's paradoxal for us is that they allocate a possible exemption for reusable. For instance, they will say, if you have an e-commerce box which is from corrugated, then the box, the empty space should be 30 or 40, depending on the final number. But if the box is reusable, it can have any size and any void space, which is not logic, because you can see air going around, moving around in reality, and you can have proliferation of what everybody of us have seen in the past, notably during the COVID period, receiving a small good with e-commerce by post, and you have a huge box. So yeah, this will be a problem as well, and we try to alert the policymakers, but it's a fight still. Minimum recycled content. This is notably for plastic, but this may be a problem for coatings, for the boxes, for instance. And then you know that we are using inks, adhesive, vernices, other components that may be notably polymers that can be problematic. But okay, this is not a huge problem for the time being, but it needs to be highlighted. Here is a snapshot of all the risks and all the targets. Large transport packaging for large appliances, 90% reusable packaging, which means corrugated is out of the market here. And no one, very few at the Parliament, have done any movement to delete this 90% target. So they believe that, okay, we need to have something to compromise because there is the exemption of cardboard. So you see whatever is red is still very critical and didn't change, although what is in bold, black and green, it's something that we have managed to achieve. So for the time being, what is transport packaging? We are exempted for group packaging, B2B within sites, B2B within the same country. All this, initially, it was reusable. So corrugated at the end would be almost out of the market. And so the rest, the other provisions are not necessarily hitting corrugated, but you have a lot on Horeca. There is a huge fight to put out of the market all the paper cups, for instance, and companies are really fighting for their survival there. So, household appliances. So this, as I told you, just to give you a picture which speaks more than 1,000 words, this should be somehow reused. The packaging should be reusable packaging. What? We don't know. We tell them that notably on the transport packaging that the only material that can replace paper and cardboard is plastic. Do you really want to have a plastic reusable packaging? There is no real answer. Here again, for e-commerce, 10% reuse by 2030, 50% reuse by 2040. We are trying to reduce it. Difficult, very difficult here, because e-commerce was, in fact, one of the markets that really provoked this problem, notably after COVID period. Here, grouped packaging, 10% reuse by 2030, 25% reuse by 2040. Here, can you imagine all these products and many others packed in plastic? So what we have done, the question should be what we have not done. we're trying to do whatever is humanly possible. On lobbying, on communication, because we believe that we produce a sustainable product which is fit for purpose. The reuse targets, we're not against reuse targets or against plastic, we're not against any material, but it needs to be feasible and used whether it's better for the environment and society. And of course, all the waste prevention, we do care, in fact, and we're aligned with the climate neutrality objectives. We have done a lot of discussion strategies elaborated together with our members, advocacy campaigns, public debates, position papers, briefs. We have been attacked very heavily, by the way, because we have made studies, peer-reviewed studies, peer-reviewed by the independent scientists based on Eurostat data and in full transparency, and still we have been heavily attacked by organizations supporting plastics. We have, of course, alerted and mobilized all our members, associations and companies. So you will see later that in all countries we have asked for articles to be published, events, meetings with ministers, with policymakers, etc. So the facts and figures, this is one example, a snapshot of some fact sheets of studies that we have done last year on comparative life cycle analysis, comparing a cardboard package with a plastic crate. And we have found out that in order to have similar environmental harms, let's say, for the environment, the reusable packaging should be used at least 63 times. And for the moment, there is no definition of the number, or nor reference to the number of rotations. They speak about 10 rotations. Can you imagine having reusable packaging that is considered as reusable, but it's used only 10 times, the harm for the environment? And we have found out that in 10 out of 15 areas of good or bad for the environment, 10 out of 15, the corrugated cardboard was much better than plastic. All these you can find it in our website. You can find the full study with the data, aggregated data, etc. We have done also analysis on the complexity of the e-commerce logistic supply chain, showing that it's not as simple as a legislator can think how the implications on the supply chain and the logistics. We have established and elaborate a climate neutrality roadmap where we show which are the steps that our industry will go through in order to become carbon neutrality, and we have involved also the paper manufacturers. And yeah, we're doing quite a lot of things, as for instance the LCAs that we are producing together with the Container Board Association every 2 years. Everything can be found on the FEFCO's website. Communication. Andy has mentioned how important communication is. You can see Andrew there, but all of our members, companies, associations have really alerted and mobilized themselves in order to publish in newspapers. We have done high-level meetings and panels with high-level people as the director of the DG Environment, European Commission responsible for PPWR. We have published in Politico, which is a well-known newspaper and journal for policymakers. We published not only one, but several articles. We had last week or the week before a dinner debate on the Parliament, hosted by parliamentarian Eleni, who is a shadow rapporteur, in fact. We publish in the Parliament magazine, and we try to keep one voice, notably with other organizations of paper and board, notably SEPI, ECMA, EPA, ourselves, Procarton, ACE, beverage cartons, and Eurocraft. So with the colleagues, we are multiplying the efforts in order to put PPWR, under the radar of everybody and put our message forward. Here you see that the alliance, the coalition, put under the focus the water scarcity, as mentioned earlier by Antti herself, although FEFCO is more focusing reuse versus recycling. Oh, doesn't move. Okay, and here again, another article on Politico. High quality recycling is another big discussion that it's ongoing because the Commission, what they want to do, so how to define high quality recycling, they want not material, but material to product. For instance, you recycle cardboard in order to take back cardboard. So you are not allowed anymore to put in the same bin, for instance, newspapers. So this is because if you do, then the recycling is not called high quality recycling. So there is quite a lot of discussions over there. And here is my last slide. I don't know if we can play. No, apparently there is a very nice video that we have done for the event at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Feel free to, you will receive the presentation, feel free to watch it. It's in YouTube. It's very nice, and in less than 1 minute, if I recall correctly, explains PPWR and its challenges and puts forward all the benefits of corrugated versus plastic. And you can see, like, this is the last picture where you have in the middle paper and forest flooded by plastics. Thank you very much.